Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the magnificent Monday edition of the Yard. It was a good weekend, wasn't a great weekend? It was. I wish we could just have a great weekend, like where everybody wins. It's part of the deal, part of competition. You never win as much as you want to. It's just kind of how it works. Life isn't always fair. But I'd love for us to have one of those weekends where we just kind of celebrate everything. Those are few and far between. Not just for us, but for everybody. But it's nice when we have a great weekend. But it was a good weekend in many respects. Before we get too deep in the weeds here, let's talk a little bit about Mississippi State softball. I didn't mention it much last week, but I don't know if you've paid attention. And if you haven't, you certainly should. Coach Sam Ricketts' club playing well, man. They are absolutely playing well. And how great it is to see that, too. And, again, we went to Media Day this year, and there was just a determination in Coach Ricketts, a belief, in her team that I think that was kind of beyond hopeful, right? It was more than just hope. It was kind of like, you guys just kind of wait and see. Folks, the Bulldogs are 17-3 in softball. They've won 6 games in a row. They're undefeated at home. Won all 12 games here. And I don't know if you've kept up. A lot of people kind of kept up when they had that big run out there. And they knocked off Clemson and Utah. Had our first loss against UC Davis. We bounced back to beat UCF and Notre Dame. And then we gave Oklahoma a game, but lost 9-3. And then while we were out there, we took down Cal State Fullerton. But we did lose to Fresno State. But since that time, I don't know a lot of people have paid attention, so let me bring you up to speed here. The Lady Bulldogs just absolutely dominant as of late. Absolutely dominant. So we had the Bulldog Invitational. We in 5 innings beat Southern Miss 9-0. Turn around, another 5-inning game, we get Troy 12-2. Another 5-inning game, we get Alcorn State 13-2. Troy gives us a bit of a game. They go the distance with us, but we win 5-2. And then we get Alcorn State again, another 5-inning game, 15-0. This is all over the weekend here. And then Samford, we get them in 5 innings, 11-1. So we're saving ourselves a little time and effort here, but putting a lot of runs up early. But, here as of late, we've played like a top 20 team, and we are. But it's one of those things you begin to look at and say, hey, maybe it's time I paid a little closer attention to this. For those of you that are keeping up, we're going to Ole Miss this weekend. It's always a battle, no matter the sport. As I've said many times, you could get 2 kids and put them in maroon shirts and, a blue button-up or whatever and let them play Chinese checkers. You could sell tickets. It's true. But we head to Oxford on a roll. On a roll for sure, and certainly be big for us to win this series. But tip of the cap to our softball ladies, and congratulations on to a great start to the season. And again, just 3 losses, and one of those is to the number 1 ranked team in the country. Yeah. So if you're in that neck of the woods this weekend, and maybe you're not heading to Starkville for baseball, maybe you can go watch the ladies play there in Oxford, if you so desire. We also are having a really good start, man, with True Refs. Thank you guys so much. One of the things I want to tell you about, we haven't advertised this. This is a national deal. And I wanted to speak about it on the show because I know that we've got a lot of servicemen and women, active and retired, within our fan base. Now listen to the show. So every month on the 11th, and this is a national promotion. So even if you have a True Refs franchise near you, maybe you can't get to Starkville, you can take advantage of this. So here's what we do. On the 11th, we allow every active or veteran of the United States military to float for free. We believe in our veterans. It's one of the things that Dana and I like most about the company. We could have elected to kind of go out on our own, but we elected to do a franchise here to have some national strength. That is a national thing, and it's not just for March. It's every month on the 11th. Every month on the 11th. And so we've got some Bulldogs that work over at the Columbus Air Force Base. We've got some retired military here in the Golden Triangle. And so here's what you have to do. You can call 662-268-7601, or you can download the app. It gives you the opportunity to book online there. That's just for the 11th. Now, we'd love for you to come anytime. We've got packages and things like that. But because of the fact that we support our military, and let's be honest about this, okay? We got a lot of people that come back from a military excursion that aren't the same people when they left. And so we're very sympathetic to that. A lot of people that have PTSD and things like that. But it's also, too, just, hey, even if you don't have those issues, we appreciate your service. So every month on the 11th. So we will do that for the very first time at Starkville a week from the day. Now, limited availability, right? 4 people can float at a time. There's only, several spots, a day. Mondays is our abbreviated day. So going to be a little limited in that respect too. So I just want you to be prepared. If you miss out this month on the 11th, you come back next month. But download the app or call Dana at 662-268-7601 and let her know, hey, I'm active military, or I'm retired military, or I'm former military. I'd like to take advantage of your military appreciation special. You can be part of that. Hey, we're good people, and we choose to do business with other good people. And so if you're not active military, hey, you need to be coming to float anyway. And one of the real quick, one of the things, I had somebody recently say, Steve, I don't get it. You're just floating in water. No, you're not. You're not just floating in water. You could do that in your bathtub. And sometimes that's quite fulfilling, but it's not going to have the healing power of this. What I mean by that is, guys, you're floating in magnesium sulfate. It's Epsom salt, 1,200 pounds in 10 inches of water in an enclosed environment. And if you don't want to be enclosed, you can leave the doors open. If it's good enough for Tom Brady and Steph Curry, it's good enough for you. They too could just float in their bathtub if you wanted to. You're really just soaking in your tub. You're not floating. And you're not floating in water here. You're floating on top of water effortlessly. Even Gene Swindoll came and floated. And there's some other people I won't name drop, But the bottom line is this business is doing well. And we could always use some more. We got room for you. We're already starting to see the weekend kind of start to fill up as people make plans to be here for baseball this weekend. And so if you're one of those people that have been thinking, hey, when I'm in town this weekend, I'm going to try that, you need to go ahead and book. And again, just call Dana 662-268-7601. If you got questions, feel free to hit me up on social media. You can follow us on Facebook at True Rest Float Spa Starkville. Also on Instagram, TikTok, basically all the platforms. Be sure and check us out. We're excited, and you should be too. And as I've said this on the show before, it's so crazy to me. Everybody leaves happy. I've never worked anywhere like that, ever. Despite my best of intentions, I've worked in other places where there's always a disgruntled customer and something you can't resolve, no matter what you want to do. There's sometimes you can't make people happy. This is a difficult situation for a lot of people that are dealing with chronic pain and anxiety and depression. And even if you don't deal with any of that stuff, you got stress in your life. Stress is a silent killer. Come be a part of it, man. Relieve yourself. Come be a part of this. Come float today. Let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company, longtime sponsors of the show. I love Bulldog Burger Company. You will too, if you don't already. 3 great locations to serve you: University Drive in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harper Drive in the Ridge and Flowood area. Sometimes I just get a hankering that only I can get resolved at Bulldog Burger Company. You know how it is. There's some particular products and meals that you have, and it's like, I can't get this anywhere else. That's how I feel going to Bulldog Burger Company. I can get a burger anywhere. I can't get a Bulldog burger anywhere other than Dan Bulldog Burger. You go get the signature burger when you're in town if you want, or you can branch out on the wild side a little bit, get the Mission. I get the pico de gallo on the side. My policy on onions, you may feel differently. The Good Morning Burger, one of my early favorites. Like that one a lot too. Got that fried egg on there. Love the Freshman 15. Love the Bryant, the Lauren. I could go on and on and on. But you need to find your own favorites. And the way you do that is you go put your feet under their table and let them take care of you. Sometimes you just want to get waited on. It doesn't mean anything's wrong with you. Sometimes you just don't feel like cooking. Sometimes a night out with friends or family is just a way to go. Not only is it an easier undertaking, Sometimes the social aspect of the meal is kind of what sustains us in life, spending time with people we love. So Bulldog Burger Company, certainly a great option for you. Get the spring rolls as your appetizer. They'll make you and everybody around you better looking. Get that chocolate shake to go. Perhaps the bread pudding. I mean, let's make an event of this. I always leave satisfied when I go to Bulldog Burger Company, not just because the food is so great, the service is good, the atmosphere is good. I always feel like I get what I pay for when I go there. Sometimes I feel like I'm getting over on them because they have integrity in pricing with so many of their competitors. Post-COVID world, man, they're still out there charging you those service fees and stuff like that. That irritates me. It does. It does. I know we were all in this thing together. But come on now. I respect the Eat With Us group for how they've handled every bit of this. I feel like I'm a valued customer. I don't feel like somebody's trying to get over on me when I go there. Proud to partner with Bulldog Burger Company. Go by and check them out next time you're in town. There are 3 locations, but you're either going to be on the way to Starkville or maybe you're coming to Starkville. But either way, let Bulldog Burger Company take care of you. All right, let's talk a little baseball. Bulldogs take a doubleheader over the weekend, as you guys are well aware. We needed a sweep. We got a sweep. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and romanticize the Mountaineers of Mount St. Mary's. It's not a great team. Matter of fact, they were expected to be the worst team in our non-conference schedule for the weekend opponents. They have proven to be that. Okay, they're 1-8 or 1-9, whatever it is, 1-9. But that's the deal. We took care of business. And we did it with some measure of authority. Probably didn't get the bats going as well on Game 3 as we should have. But just kind of looking back a little bit here, Cal Steven gets back on track. I mentioned to you guys last week. So as good as he looked against Air Force, that's the best that I've seen him. And then as bad as he looked against Georgia Southern, that's the worst that I've seen him. And I really said, hey, who he really is kind of in between. And I think that's what you saw this past Saturday, but maybe it skewed a little closer to that Air Force appearance. He was really, really good. Gave up some hits, and he's a pitch-to-contact guy. Got a bunch of strikeouts, but Cal is a guy that kind of specializes in pitch efficiency. He's going to go out there and pound his own, try to get under barrels, make you hit his pitch, and sometimes you do. But it was kind of a return to form. I wrote that in the Saturday column. Really happy with his performance. But, looking down, it wasn't a ton of offense in this game. But if you've read this morning's feature with Dylan Cupp, Raise the Cup, over at genespage.com, then you know that Dylan Cupp had a chance to meet with the media for the first time as a Mississippi State Bulldog on Saturday. And one of the reasons we're able to kind of get that done is because he's doing it on the field. Lamonis and the guys are typically very protective of freshmen, and that's not germane to Mississippi State baseball. We do the same thing in football, and for the most part, basketball, a little less restrictive in basketball. When you got Josh Hubbard out there, people going to want to talk to him. But until they've really done something, coaches typically don't want to send their players to post-game media. I would say Hubbard's a guy that's just special in every aspect. But Dylan Cupp comes through with the first really big hit. I hate to save his Bulldog career, but this was a big one here. In the second inning, State needed to get some things going, and it's a ground rule double that plays 2. And so Zach and Logan Kohler both scored to make it a 2-0 ball game. Later in the inning, Amani Larry, next at bat really, Amani Larry flies out to right field, just doing a job right here, right? Just trying to elevate something, get the run home. And Joe Powell tags and scores. Cupp takes third. It's a 3-0 game. And it really felt like the way Cal Steven was pitching that might be able to hold up. I mean, you don't want to take anything for granted. And certainly you can never have too many runs. You get to the 5th inning, got Amani Larry on, and the next thing you know, Mershawn triples. Larry's going to score there from second anyway. I was a little bit worried, to be honest with you, when Mershawn goes rolling in the third there. I don't know that I would have sent him just because of the fact we're just finally getting him back. But here's the thing with Mershawn. He only knows one speed, and it's wide open. There's no gearing down with Dave Mershawn. Dave's the guy that's going to do everything he can to go make a play for his team. And how often do you see a triple to left? Not very often. It happens, but not very often. Typically, it's really the right side of the outfield because it's a longer throw. I mean, the shortest throw in the outfield, obviously, is from left to third, unless there's just something from center. It's a toss. But you understand my point. You don't see a ton. And that's one of the things about Marshawn. He just tears out of the box. I'm sure he was thinking 3 all the way. But nevertheless, Larry comes home. It's 4-0. And then in the 6th, Powell, really nice job here. And listen, I give them a little credit here for getting a glove on this. It's an RBI single, but Connor Hyzak scores to make it a 5-0 ball game. And again, you just felt like, you know what, we just need to eat up some outs here and we're good. In the 7th, they finally get going. Stecco singles to left field. And this is when things got a little bit crazy. Sometimes you got to know when to punt, right? And we got a little cute here. And we basically gift them a run here. It's like a U-trip game there for a second. Like we kind of reverted a little bit. We played so well defensively, but on this play, again, the run's going to score here, and we just got to be smart about it. And that's what happens. That's what happens. Sometimes you try to do too much. Sometimes you just got to say, hey, this play is over with. They got us. So they put 2 runs up, and it's a 5-2 ball game, and you start thinking when this thing could get close down the stretch. And then Dakota Jordan, with his 4th home run of the year, steps up and hits a 2-run shot, and, of course, Marshawn is on. So the 2 runs that you gifted, you take them right back, and that ends up being your final. Amani Larry, 1 for 3 in the ball game. Dave Marshawn, 3 for 4. It's just ridiculous, man. He's hitting a cool, crisp 500 right now. We talked about that on the show. This is not one of those I told you so moments, okay? I'm not trying to suggest that. But we talked extensively about, hey, getting Logan Kohler back and getting Dave Marshawn back, we're going to be big for this offense. And now, of course, the self-loathing State fan comes out and says, but, Steve, we hadn't really played anybody. Listen, we're playing baseball. We look better, regardless of competition. We look better having Marshawn and Kohler back in the lineup, and I like Marshawn playing second. I think Kupp and Marshawn are probably the better double play duo. Marshawn's got a pretty big arm for a little guy, for sure. But Marshawn, 3 for 4, scores a run, drives in one, of course, on the triple. Dakota Jordan, 2 for 4, run scored and a couple of ribbies. Hunter Hines, 0 for 4. Bryce Chance, 0 for 4. Logan Kohler goes 0 for 2, but he does get a couple walks there. That's a gap we can ill afford, right? When 4, 5, and 6 go hitless in a ball game, that's not going to do good things for Mississippi State. Now, Connor Hyzak, however, goes 2 for 4, and you're starting to see Connor kind of get going a little bit. We'll have a story with him in the morning, but 2 for 4 with a couple of runs scored here. And you love it so much, and it's the old baseball coach in me, you love it so much when you see 7, 8, 9 beginning to show some signs of life on offense. Again, Hyzak 2 for 4. Joe Powell goes 1 for 3, drives in a run, scores a run. Dylan Kupp goes 1 for 3 and has 2 RBI. We talked about that earlier in the ball game, earlier in the show. But you start working through the numbers here, and you begin to realize, hey, your run producers in the bottom third of the order were nearly as good as in your top third of the order. And you can kind of get around the fact that the middle of the order didn't produce a whole lot on that day. And you're going to have some days like that. It's just kind of how things go. On the pitching side of things, Cal Steven, 6 innings pitched, scattered 6 hits, didn't give up anything. 9 strikeouts, 1 walk, has the 1 hit by pitch. And that's a hit by pitch thing. It's just kind of baseball. But that's a number. It's not like last year's numbers, but that's something I wish we could clean up a little bit. Gavin Black comes in, goes an inning. He was on the mound when the circus came to town, and we kind of got cute there. 2 hits, 2 runs, only one of them earned. Does have a walk, no strikeouts, but got a couple flyouts and a ground out to get out of it. We need Gavin Black to be good too, especially on the back end. And Luke Dodson, as important as Cal Steven was coming back to form, Luke Dodson's 2 innings I thought were huge. Not only does it save some pitching for the rest of the weekend, but it also shows you that you can count on him. He also had one situation here where he kind of pitched himself into a little bit of trouble. And he had the pickoff throw that went awry, and next thing you know, he's like, you know what? You guys are going to get nothing and like it. And so he doesn't give up a hit. He has the one walk, of course, and really did a nice job, I thought, kind of containing himself there. And that's a kid that's going to be able to help us. So State wins Game 2, 7-2 to take the series, but that wasn't our goal, right? That was the minimum standard for us, was to be able to win the series. We're looking for a sweep. When we bring in a team like Mount St. Mary's, all due respect to those kids, I'm sure they all work hard. But the reality of it is we expect to sweep that. We're Mississippi State. Don't ever forget that. Some of us do. Not me, but some of us do. Today's podcast is brought to you by NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast. What's the best way to help you and your finances thrive? The answer can be overwhelming with all the financial misinformation out there. Fortunately, you can turn to NerdWallet's objective finance journalists to set things straight and help you make smart decisions with your own money. The nerds have helped me get smarter about things like planning for my tax bill so I don't dread April every single year, managing finances with a partner without causing a breakup, putting away more money for retirement since I'm not going to do this podcast forever. Sorry, folks. And also boosting my credit score since good credit is like a real-life cheat code. Saving for an emergency fund because life is like a good movie. It loves a good plot twist. The nerds also explain the real impact that the latest financial headlines could have on your life. Weekly financial check-ins with Smart Money help you spend more time doing what matters and less time worrying about what doesn't. Let NerdWallet's trusted experts untangle today's web of financial misinformation. Listen to NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast on your favorite podcast app. Future you will thank you. Bulldog fans, rodeo season is here. That's right, the Dixie National Rodeo. Get ready to roll, man. And I remember being a kid, that was like the biggest highlight for us. My grandmother would get us tickets every year, and me and my brother would wear our cowboy outfits. We'd put our boots on, have our chaps, our vest, and we'd go up there, and just in case one of the cowboys got a little bit scared to get on a horse or a bull, we were willing to do it. Yeah, for sure. Guys, boots aren't just for going out to a country western bar and doing a little boot scooting. Maybe you got a little Texas two-step in your game. Tecovas can make you look better than ever. Absolutely. And here's the deal, too. That's the thing, the versatility of Tecovas is you can wear them somewhere nice, or you can live life where you don't go gently. That's what Tecovas does for you. Yeah, it's a rugged, handsome boot. It's my favorite boot brand, and it should be yours too. Be sure and check them out. Tecovas believes in Western for all people, and you can feel that when you go into their stores. When you walk in, you'll be greeted like family, offered a boot shine and a drink, and maybe even an adult beverage if you prefer, and you can get custom fitted for a new pair of Tecovas boots. You can get custom leather stamping or branding, whatever you need to make it feel somewhat individual. Look up your closest store at tecovas.com. But if you can't make it to a store, Tecovas delivers the most premium quality and most comfortable Western goods right to your door. Visit tecovas.com. That's TECOVAS.com. And you know what, partner? Point your toes west. All right, so State wins the final game of the series in the back end of a doubleheader, 6-0. Gerangelo again was outstanding, and that's to me the big takeaway from the weekend is 3 quality starts. You know, you go week number 1, you had one really good start, one pretty good start, and one just kind of okay start. Last weekend it was completely different. Again, we hadn't had 3 quality starts on the weekend until this weekend. And we ended up facing their best pitcher, Kyle Speeds, too. That soft tossing lefty guy that could spot up a change and throw cutters on each side. It's ridiculous. So give the kid some credit. He's charged with the loss there. But we kind of get it going. It takes a little while to get going. But in the third inning there, kind of some craziness here. You know, we get Highsack on. And we're going to bunt him around. And they end up throwing that ball into the right field bullpen. Highsack comes all the way around to score. And Long goes pushing there in a second. And the next thing you know, Long comes in on a wild pitch. So the third inning, they kind of gift us a little bit there. And if you're a purist of baseball, man, you hate that when you got a guy out there that's a guy that's out there trying to work for himself, and then he's the guy that kind of self-inflicts the wound here. That's what happened with the pitcher. But now he's down 2-0. And it stayed that way for a long time. And again, our fans wanted to sweep so badly. And you can kind of feel it in the fan base. You can feel it in the stadium. You can see it on social media. It's like, man, we can't let these guys hang around. We get to the 7th, and it's another wild pitch situation here. And then Kupp, again, comes through big. Kupp singles through the right side. Really nice inside-out shot there. I love guys that work backside. And so he takes that ball the opposite way. 2-run score. Now it's a 5-0 ball game. And then just to add a little margin, it's Marshawn singling to center field, and Kupp scores. So State did what good teams do, and they get you on the ropes. They finally put you away. We'd have liked to have seen it happen earlier in this ball game. But that's just kind of how life is sometimes. And again, it's a doubleheader. But, looking at the numbers here, Amani goes 0 for 3, which has been kind of a rarity, but he did get on base with a walk. And then Marshawn, again, 1 for 4 with an RBI. And then DJ goes 0 for 3. Hunter goes 0 for 4, which makes him 0 for the doubleheader. Bryce Chance goes 1 for 3 with a run scored. Logan Kohler 0 for 3, did have a run scored. Connor Hyzak goes 1 for 3 with a run scored. Johnny Long 0 for 1, also had the walk and, of course, reached on the error there. Dylan Kupp goes 1 for 2 with 2 RBI and a run scored. But, again, it's good to see the guys in the bottom third of that order. They had a good day on Saturday. Kyle Spees, who I thought was really, really good for Mount St. Mary's. I had somebody else, I won't say who. They can claim credit later if they want to. I had somebody else tell me, we need to go sign a junk ball left-hander just to throw BP. Let's call it the John Harding Scholarship. And I know we're kind of dating ourselves by mentioning it, calling it the John Harding Scholarship. But I like it. But, for some reason, and everybody sees it. We're struggling with junk ball left-handers, and a lot of teams do. But for some reason, it seems like we have seen an inordinate amount of them in the early going. But I thought Spees was really, really good for Mount St. Mary's. He goes 5 full, and it's a hit, 2 runs, only one of them earned, 6 punch-outs, no walks. Had the 1 hit by pitch. But when you got a guy up there that, number one, you got to generate the power. It's not, power on power there. This is a guy that's going to make you go up there and try to hit the ball out because you're thinking to yourself, this guy can't get me out. You do try to do too much. You just got to go up there and work the backside. And my thing is, again, I'm an old school coach, but the thing that I've learned about these junk ball left-handers, you just push up in the box and hit it before it breaks. You sit back in the box. I know it's a little bit uncomfortable. Everything against a junk ball left-hander is uncomfortable, but you got to get out in front of that thing. You do. And then sitting soft, that's one thing. If there's one major criticism that I would offer, we don't sit soft enough. And we know we've got a guy that can't throw a fastball by you. You got to be smart with it. You can't just sit there and just say, I'm going to be dead red fastball. The next thing you know, he's able to tunnel that changeup or that breaking ball in there. And I suspect if we went and looked at the pitching chart for 70 pitches from Kyle Spees, I would say that 50 of them were probably changeups and breaking balls. And when you pick up on that, you just sit soft and you hammer it. Devin Sheeran, I thought was really good for them at one point. Came out there throwing some gas, and then State finally gets to him. 3 hits, 4 runs, all of them earned, 3 walks. And then Max McCrary came in, and he was really good for them. Goes with inning the third. Gerangelo, another quality outing. 6 innings, 6.2 innings pitch, allowed just 2 hits, 4 walks, 10 Ks. No hit by pitches this week. Walks, a little more than we'd like to allow. But I thought, this weekend we let him do more right, left within the same inning. I think it kind of messed with him a little bit. And again, I love having Johnny Long behind the plate with him, a mature guy that can kind of generate the energy for you. But Lowe was really good. We bring in Cam Schuelke. I'm a Cam Schuelke fan, but so I'm beginning to wonder if he's just not a bridge guy to get you to the ninth. I think against some teams based on matchups, this is a guy that is going to get hit at times. And in high leverage situations late, That's not a good thing. So I'm interested to see kind of how we use him moving forward. I love him, I do, but he's not Landon Sims, and nor should we ask him to be. Nolan Stevens came in. I thought he was electric, man. 1 innings pitched here, gets a strikeout, but not only did he hit the baseball when he got a start earlier this weekend, he comes out and pitches, and him and Dotson, those are names that can help us this year. They're newcomers that can make us better this year. Not that Schulke can. I'm not suggesting that you expected that from Cam. But a lot of you guys maybe don't know Dotson and Stevens as well. But those guys are really good. Tyson Harden, one of his better outings in the uniform. 13 pitches here in the ninth. Guys, and it was filthy. The sinker's really, really good. And he's a guy, too, that's been kind of hit or miss. But he's been a different pitcher at times this year. I know last year the whole thing, it was like giving up the long ball, right? That was a part of it. I think it's one of the deals now, when you add the sinking component to it, you're going to have people hitting the top half of the baseball and bumping that thing in the ground. But 2 punch-outs for him, and again, he looked really, really good. Very happy for him, for sure. All right, let's take a quick look. Look at our numbers here and kind of see who's hot and who's not, and we're going to get to a quick preview of Southern Miss. It's interesting. We talked about this recently. There was a time there we had 4 guys hitting above 300 and then nobody above 200, right? Like everybody else is below the Mendoza line. And so let's kind of see how we're doing now. And again, I get it. We had the conversation. Hunter Hines last week was hitting for better average, wasn't getting the power numbers, and then in the doubleheader, he didn't get anything. And some of that's because you see a lot of left-handers, but we just need him to calm down. You know what he's capable of. I have all the faith in the world in Hunter Hines. All right, so let's take a look here at the average, and we're gonna have to change this a little bit because it doesn't allow you to sort the way it should. But anyway, all right. So you got Amani Larry, Dakota Jordan, Connor Hyzak, Hunter Hines, Dave Mershon, Nolan Stevens, Joe Powell, all heading 300 or better. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. That'll get it done. Amani's hitting 364. Man, you love that from your leadoff hitter. On-base percentage of .492. Dakota hitting 333. Has the 4 tanks, 13 ribbies. The ribbies tied now with Hunter Hines for the team lead. Hines is average down to 306. Hyzak is up to 324. Guys played in all 12 games, started 10 of them. And again, you start looking at what's happening with Connor Hyzak. We talked about him just kind of being one of those guys that could be an X factor for us. I mean, is he going to be a double-digit home run guy? Is he going to be a guy that ultimately loses a starting position? I would say right now he's probably in the middle of all that, right? But you start looking at this thing here, the hitting numbers here as of late. I don't know if you guys know this, but guys, he's got hits in 6 of his last 7 games. Did you realize that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. 6. He's got hits in 6 of his last 7 games. That includes 3 2-hit games. That'll work, right? So you're starting to see him kind of come alive a little bit. And that's very significant. We start talking about adding length to the order. That's a guy that can help you do that. I like what I'm seeing from him. I like his approach. I wondered at the beginning of the year if he was kind of struggling to see spin. I think sometimes, too, you get older players and, they're thinking, hey, I got to get gaudy stats in non-conference because things are going to tighten up in SEC play. And at times you try to do too much. And maybe that was the case with Connor. But where he is now is where we need him to be. Absolutely, without question. We need that guy producing for us, and he has. And, again, you look at Logan Kohler now. Logan at 259, we need him to get going a bit. Good to have him back. But, Mershon has come back like a house on fire. I don't know if you guys have kept up with Dave Mershon. But Dave Mershon now, even though he's only played in 7 games, he's got 14 hits, which is the 3rd highest total on the team. Your team leader is Amani Larry. That's always a good thing. Your leadoff guy's getting on base the most. And then DJ and Hunter right there with 15. And just right behind them, in nearly half the games, there's Mershon with 14. That kid has come back, and you know what? He may be the guy we need to be the spark plug in this lineup. Very good to have him back. Very, very, very good to have him back. All right, let's take a quick look at Southern Miss. I don't know if you guys have kept up with them at all. I have done some of the research, kind of kept up with them. They have an identical record as Mississippi State at 8-4. They opened the season with a series win over Marist down in Hattiesburg. They win Friday, Saturday, lose on Sunday. Then they turn around and have to play Air Force on Monday, the same Air Force team that we played, and they get them 7-5. They go down to New Orleans and play the Privateers, and we will see them next week down in Biloxi. But the Privateers, who knew it would turn into a Wednesday slugfest? Southern Miss wins at 15-10. The next weekend series, Missouri State, they go in there. Southern Miss takes 2 of 3. They lose the middle game in that one. And all these games, very competitive, 4-3, 3-1, 5-4. On Tuesday, they go down to Biloxi and play, and I think everybody should. I love being down there on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. I love going down there for baseball. But Southern Miss loses to Nicholls State in 10 innings, 6-5, down there at the Shuckers Ballpark. And these people down there do a great job. They really do. I'm looking forward to getting down there. Looking forward to that a lot. Probably go eat at Mary Mahoney's while I'm down there. That's the plan. All right, Indiana State rolled in this weekend and really had trouble scoring until they got the Sunday game. Southern Miss wins game 1, 5-1, 6-2 in game 2, and then they get beat pretty good yesterday, 12-5. And so their season in many respects has kind of gone like ours. Again, identical records. They're 7-3 at home. They play 2 games away. They win at UNO and, of course, lose a neutral site game at Nicholls State. But looking at their numbers, a few things that jump out to me. And we don't know pitching matchups from on their side. We do know Carson Ligon is going to start for Mississippi State. I suspect we'll know about Southern Miss's starter later today. We'll see. But Southern Miss has one guy among the regulars hitting above 300, and that's Dalton McIntyre. It was Carson Paytow, and now it's Dalton. So they flip-flopped yesterday's numbers. But as a team, guys are hitting 239. That's not traditionally what you would expect from Southern Miss. They're a team that competes hard at the plate. But it'll be interesting to kind of see this thing unfold. Offensively, they have not been the juggernaut by any stretch of the imagination. Again, I'm not being disrespectful. I've got a tremendous amount of respect for Southern Miss baseball. Have for a long time. And I root for them very, very hard when they play Ole Miss. Maybe you do too. But, it's an interesting deal. 9 home runs this year. I don't know if anybody hits one out of Trustmark. It's a big ballpark. I mean, we've had some guys that have poked one out there before, for us, Southern and Ole Miss. But it's not a lot of that. It's a really big ballpark. And I think maybe that works in Carson Ligon's favor. Got to get him going. But this is a team that has really, really, really struggled at times offensively. And again, you saw those scores, a lot of low-scoring games that are very competitive. The pitching's been good. You'd expect that, right? But you start playing this thing out here. Slade Wilkes, a guy from my hometown, in many respects expected to be kind of the face of the program. He's hitting 250. 10 hits, got a couple doubles, couple dingers, and just 8 RBI. The leading run producer is Nick Monaster, who also is a two-way player for them, hitting 243. Also got a couple of tanks there. But I don't know if anybody hits one out. Dakota and Hunter probably could. Slade Wilkes probably could. But it'll be interesting to see how this kind of goes. And again, I don't know who they're going to who they're going to pitch just yet. We'll have an update on it later on Gene's page. But one of the numbers that sticks out to me is stolen base attempts. And not really for Southern. Southern's 8 of 13. Their opponents are 15 of 16 in stolen base attempts. And so I begin to think about Amani Larry and Dave Mershon at the beginning of that order. Dylan Cupp at the bottom of the order. We have some speed and the ability to run the bases. And it appears that Southern Miss has really struggled to defend the stolen base attempt. Mississippi State's number. State's 12 of 15 in stolen bases. 12 of 15. But I think that could be a factor in the ballgame. I mean, if I see these numbers, of course, your coaches are going to see this when they get their scout together. But when I see 15 of 16, it just kind of jumps off the page at you and see they've thrown one person out. And then you begin to ask yourself, was that a busted hit and run or was it a straight steal? You go back and do the numbers yourself. But 15 of 16 is a lot at this point in the year. It is. And so I'm not exactly sure what to make of it. But if I'm Mississippi State, I'm gonna make them throw me out. I'm not going to run myself out of an inning, but I'm going to run the bases. And when Dave Marchand, too, that's the thing I love about Dave and his whole approach to the game. Dave is just an irritant on the base paths. And he's our irritant. But that's the thing that excites me about him is when he is on the field, it's something else for the pitcher to have to worry about. It's something else for the defense to have to account for. It's like I can't just sit back here and just, play pitch and catch and field grounders because I never know when Marchand's going to go. And he's a guy, too, that'll lay a bunt down on his own. He'll take third on his own. And so I love having that guy on base, and I think Dave Marchand, because of he and Amani's ability to get on base more times than not, I think that the stolen base could be a real factor in this ballgame. And I'm looking forward to getting down there. And, we'll get a couple things written up, and I'll head on down there early. Maybe we'll go look around, maybe have lunch with a friend. You know how that stuff works. You take advantage of it when you can. But that's something to watch. Let's call that, the Boneyard statistic to watch as we get into Tuesday's game with Southern Miss. This is stolen base. And you know as well as I do, they're aware of it too. Southern Miss is, and they probably haven't seen a lot of team speed quite like ours. Now, I want to let you guys know a couple things too. We'll talk about it later in the week. But I don't know, I think a lot of our fans might be overlooking Evansville a little bit. And, beginning of the year, some people were telling me Georgia Southern would likely be one of our most difficult non-conference weekend opponents. Little did we know that Austin Peay was going to come out of the gate, go 10-1. It's ridiculous. Didn't expect that. Tip of the cap to them. But this Evansville team, this is a program obviously that in the Missouri Valley up there. I mean, they don't get a ton of talent, but they play a pretty good brand of baseball. And I think it's interesting. And again, we'll preview this later in the week, but they're going to be a decent team when they come in here. They're not going to be Mount St. Mary's, all due respect to them. And they're probably not even going to be Georgia Southern. I think they're going to be a team that is probably on par with Air Force, based on what we've seen. They're a team that really swings the bat well up and down the order. And again, we'll preview them later. But, again, they're 7-5. They're a game behind us overall, and they really hadn't played, the competition we've had. They have faced Vanderbilt. But it's interesting. It's interesting. I got some people in college baseball telling me, Bulldog fans expecting a sweep this weekend, maybe a little bit optimistic. Maybe. I know, listen, my ego is just like yours. Hey, we're Mississippi State. We should always sweep a team like the Evansville Aces. You learn a little more about college baseball. All it takes is one pitcher to get hot, and things change. But looking forward to seeing all of you great Bulldogs down in Central Mississippi tomorrow night at Pearl. First pitch is 6 p.m. Get off work early and come on out there. Get you a cold brew. Grab you a hot dog, and let's have a good time. So that's going to be the deal tomorrow night. And again, we'll recap the game on Wednesday and begin to kind of look ahead for the weekend. We'll preview the weekend series on Friday. But people ask me, Steve, well, how do you feel? You go to every game, you go to scrimmages, you're around the team a lot, talk to our coaches a lot, and all that's true. But here's the deal. I feel better, right? I'm still a little – that Austin Peay thing still rocks me a little bit. And maybe if we had held on in game 2 – we should have won both of those games. You're not going to hear me say otherwise. But, we blow that game, that incredible, ridiculous lead in game 2. And that still sticks with me a little bit. I'm still a little bit gun-shy from that. In that Georgia Southern game, that Saturday game, they just beat us, right? And I can live with that, but it's the collapse, right? And again, you go back to the Cal Steven thing. We didn't get off to a good start, right? We didn't get off to a good start. And it wasn't like they were just knocking us around the ballpark. We were missing our spots huge. And so as a result, we had to kind of ram it in there, and that in turn turns into contact. And again, if we get the Cal Steven we got this past Saturday, we're going to win a lot of games on Saturday. We should, anyway. But again, I'm optimistic about the team. Feel better after a 4-0 week. And again, I get it. I don't expect Jackson State or Mount St. Mary's, to go to Omaha by any stretch of the imagination. We're not going to sit here and prop them up. But at the same time, too, I get tired of our people always cutting down teams because they have to be bad if we beat them. We're Mississippi State, okay? We have an expectation for excellence that hadn't been met the last couple of years. But I can tell you last week was a step in the right direction. If we go 4-0 this week, I think you can feel really, really good about things. I'm not expecting that, but we got to do better than 2-2. I mean, 2-2 is like the minimum standard for this week. But we got to make up that game, that Austin Peay stuff. We do. We got to make it up somewhere along the way. And I think a 4-0 week this week would certainly make you feel a whole lot better about things. All of a sudden, you look up and you're 12-4, getting headed to Biloxi next week. I think everybody would say, okay, maybe we're a little bit farther along, and just getting some guys healthy like Dave Mershon, Logan Kohler, and getting some pitching going has made us a better program, better team. All right, time for today's top 10 list. As always, brought to you by closewithblair.com. That's CLOSE with Blair, BLAIR.com. Let me give you his phone number. This is his direct number. Right to his hip, as we used to say years ago. Now, everybody just kind of keeps them in their pockets, I guess. But 601-500-2344. 601-500-2344. Why do you need Blair's number? Well, number one, you might want to, send along some hair care tips. No, seriously. Blair is a mortgage professional. You got mortgage needs. Maybe you're looking to buy a game day condo. That'd be a nice investment, right? Maybe it's your future retirement home. So, you know what, hey, Steve, when we retire, we're moving to Starkville so we can go to every sporting event. Well, come on, we'd love to have you as a neighbor. Maybe looking to buy a home for the first time. Maybe you're a student. Maybe you're a grad student. Maybe you're somebody that's just kind of getting out into the world and you don't know how life works yet. You think you do, but you don't. One of the most important decisions you're going to make is a person that can help you become a homeowner. Sure. Absolutely. It doesn't equate to your personal salvation and your marriage, but it's among the most important decisions you're ever going to make. Don't get fleeced by some shady organization, some subprime lender out there that's trying to be a vulture. Stick with a winner like Blair Chandler. 23 years of experience in the industry. Back-to-back top 1% close ratios in the country. Get a real winner working for you. Blair recently made the move to Priority One Mortgage. The same level of service accompanied him on the journey. He's also my friend and your friend. And we all need a friend in the mortgage industry when times get a little complicated. Blair can help you navigate through a very complicated process and get you to the closing table. Again, that's closewithblair.com. All right, we decided to be a little controversial today. So we're going to do... I got a lot of tabs open, so let me close a couple of these just because of the fact that we're done with them. But years ago, MTV, you guys know it as the 24-hour network that plays ridiculousness 24 hours a day, the show. That's not a commentary on their programming, but it's either the Jersey Shore or ridiculousness. You can get on MTV Classic, which is what we grew up with, which is far better than what you guys have grown accustomed to. And I'm so sad for this new generation of kids that never knew what it was like to sit there all day and watch MTV, just hoping your favorite video would come on. We had Dial MTV, we'd call up, and they used to play the real videos, and they brought Carson Daly in, and it became something they just didn't play the videos as often. It was more of a social thing. But all they understood, MTV was great. It was great. They also censored some things over the years. There were some videos that got banned. There's a list of, I don't know, 100 or so. But I picked out 10 songs that had videos that were banned on MTV. Now, some of these were edited again, if I can get it out. They had the version, of course, that you can find on YouTube and on VHS, like Motley Crue's "Girls, Girls, Girls." They had to go back and edit it and make it so you could actually play it, because it was "Girls, Girls, Girls" is filmed at the Seventh Veil, a strip club out in Hollywood, and so as you can imagine, that was a little bit risque, especially for the '80s. Ended up being one of the most watched videos in MTV history. The edited version, but you can find the unedited version available out there. I have it. I do, on one of my many Motley Crue DVDs. But all that I understood, I am a advocate for the First Amendment. I believe you ought to be able to say and do what you want, as long as you're not hurting anybody else. In my lifetime, we've had all these debates on what obscenity is. We had the 2 Live Crew trial. We had the Banned in the USA stuff. And there's a lot that's happened over the years that that's happening today that couldn't happen back then. And what happened too with the ascension of the PMRC is whenever they put a warning label on an album, it was guaranteed to sell 1 million records. I mean, it's just kind of how it was. That's what people wanted. We gravitated to that. And so when you found out that a song or a video got banned, it's like, well, I got to go see it. Why? What's the deal? And so we're going to talk a little bit about some of that stuff today. All right, number 10. It's much deeper in their catalog, and maybe you don't know it. This is a great song, and Smashing Pumpkins is still one of those bands that they still deliver. And maybe you've outgrown your interest in the Smashing Pumpkins, but they are amazing. And I would offer, next time you take a big road trip, maybe dig up one of these Smashing Pumpkins albums that you're not quite as familiar with. Everybody had Gish and Siamese Dream. And then the cool ones of us had Melancholy and Infinite Sadness. But, maybe you need to get a little bit deeper in the catalog. But there's a great track called Try, Try, Try from the Pumpkins. The video was banned from MTV. The original video, if I remember correctly, it ran like 10 plus minutes. And then they condensed it down to like a 5-minute video. I believe you can find the original on YouTube. I mean, just about everything goes on YouTube, with rare exception. But basically, the 2 characters depicted are addicts. They're heroin addicts. And so it's kind of like you see their day-to-day type life. They wake up, they're just living on the streets. The next thing you know, they're stealing money, and there's prostitution. It's a very, very unvarnished look at the life of a street drug addict. And apparently that was too much for MTV to take, so they banned the video. I think that kind of stuff teenagers need to see, that sort of stuff. It doesn't glamorize it in any way. That's one of the things that it was really kind of offensive to me. And in this day where everybody can be offended about whatever they want to be, I'm offended that in many music videos, they glamorize the use of illegal and illicit narcotics. And then you have a video here that shows you the reality of the street heroin addict, and that's too much. That's too much for us to take. I think you got to play the tapes the whole way through. It's very hypocritical of MTV. And before we get too deep on the list, you're going to think, well, this is going to be a bunch of like satanic stuff and a bunch of, sexuality and things like that. Guys, let me tell you this. We got a Christian band on here. A band that many of you probably have never heard. But those of you that were listening to Petra and bands like that in the 80s, you remember a band called DeGarmo and Key? Yes, they too have had a video banned from the MTV platform. It's true. The name of the song is 666, and it actually has some satanic and demonic imagery in it. And basically the video ends with the Antichrist being thrown into the lake of fire. And MTV said, you know what, this is too much for us. We can have all this other stuff, but we can't have this. This is just too graphic for us. It's incredible. You could have, again, the hypocrisy of the whole thing. It's like they would play Iron Maiden's Number of the Beast, and I'm an Iron Maiden fan. And of course, you got to take that song in its context. It's not a song that's praising Satanism by any stretch of the imagination. It's part of an album. But that was able to be played, and we were okay to say 666, but we just couldn't throw the Antichrist in the lake of fire. And so they edited the video and re-released it. MTV played it as part of their contemporary Christian show they had. It was short-lived, but they had that. Number 8, and this probably shouldn't come as a surprise. Tool, over the years, the videos, by and large, have been animated in some respect. And the video for Prison Sex, even though there was some animation in it, and it was basically these little figurines and stuff, they felt it was too graphic for MTV. An incredible song, for sure. But even with those little figurines and all the computer technology and stuff they used to make it come to life, I said, you know what, this is offensive. So I didn't play it. I can't really defend this one, I'm just going to say, even though it's just cartoons. But so Tool, some great bands on this list today. Number 7, Twisted Sisters, Be Cruel to Your School. We've had that one on the show when we did the Twisted Sister Top 10 list. Be Cruel to Your School. There was a scene there where they had some zombies that maybe had some public display of affection that upset the sensibilities of the monitors at MTV. And so they wouldn't allow this one to be played on MTV. Twisted Sister, in many respects, was kind of playing itself out at the time. Twisted Sister, as much as I dig those guys, like they're not like Motley or Rat. They really weren't a serious band. They got a huge following. I love Dee Snider. I do. And Dee Snider, of course, went and represented rock music in the congressional hearings with Tipper Gore. Very intelligent guy, for sure. But Twisted Sister, in many respects, was kind of a novelty band. And I mean that in the kindest way possible. They got some great hits, don't get me wrong. But once MTV came along, they were kind of a caricature, if I can say it right, of many of the 80s hard rock bands. All right, number 6, speaking of Motley, we talked about Girls, Girls, Girls earlier. Another song from that album, the video was banned from MTV. It's called You're All I Need. It's a ballad that basically is about a guy that kills his girlfriend. And it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, but it's really not a situation where it's being exploited. It's basically a commentary on toxic relationships. And again, in the 80s, maybe we just weren't ready to deal with that. We talks about this, toxic behavior. Everything. Any time today, if you say anything that true or untrue that hurts anybody's feelings, you're labeled as a toxic person. That's my commentary on that. The truth is never toxic. No matter what your friends on Instagram tell you, it's true. Sometimes you're an idiot. That's true. Sometimes you are an idiot. And you deserve to have somebody tell you the truth about your behavior. There have been times in my life I've been an idiot too. And maybe I didn't like what somebody had to say, but because they hurt my feelings by telling me the truth, I didn't label them as toxic because I'm the one that had the problem. They love me enough to tell me the truth. Big difference. I could talk about that all day. Not going to, but I could. Anyway, but You're All I Need was banned from MTV. They thought that they thought somebody would go kill somebody. We'd already had the whole situation with, Ozzy had the song Suicide Solution, pardon me. And if you know the song, he talks about suicide is done with liquor. It was when Ozzy was battling alcoholism himself. He wrote a song about it. And then this kid killed himself, and his family couldn't accept it, so they blamed Ozzy Osbourne and heavy metal music, the devil's music. They said, Ozzy killed our son. He would never have done this if he hadn't heard this song. The fragility in the whole thing is offensive to me. Anyway, it didn't work out. And Judas Priest got sued. It's all kind of craziness, man. It's like we can never take accountability for ourselves. It's always somebody else's fault, and I'll feel a whole lot better about my plight if you give me some money. Stupid. All right, so Motley, number 6. Number 5, a band that's had, I think, 4 or 5 videos banned. And a lot of it's been for their lyrical content, not so much for the presentation. But it's Megadeth. I love Megadeth. I do. I know there are a lot of people back in the day, we didn't know a lot about Dave Mustaine. We just know, okay, when Metallica hit the scene, they changed guitar players, and then all of a sudden, Dave Mustaine, who was very much a staunch advocate for recovery, he's had his own struggles with chemical dependency. But all of a sudden, Megadeth comes along, and you're like, wait a minute here. Wait a minute. You mean the guy that Metallica kicked out is fronting this other band? And they may actually rock harder than Metallica? Of course, that changed when Master of Puppets came out. But in the beginning, killing them is my business, and business is good. Peace sells. It was great. But they had a bunch of videos banned, and this is another one. In My Darkest Hour is a very, very honest confession by Dave Mustaine about some of his own challenges. And a lot of people were like, you can't say that on MTV. You can't. And so In My Darkest Hour was banned. And you remember 2 years ago, like, people were upset that Metallica was playing Fade to Black in person. He talks about, I've lost the will to live. They're like, hey, it's a theme song for suicide. Do you hear the stuff we're playing on the radio today? Crazy. Number 4, a song that has a very straightforward message. If you're aware of this song, you know exactly the message I'm getting to, but it's Closer from 9 Inch Nails. Now, I was probably among the first 9 Inch Nails fans in the great state of Mississippi. Guy that I'd met gave me a copy of the Pretty Hate Machine before it was even nationally distributed. And I remember hearing this thinking, hey, things are going to change here, because all of a sudden you kind of got dance music with a bit of an edge, and you got rock music with a little bit of a dance beat to it. Things are changing. I don't know that Trent Reznor gets enough credit for how he changed music. And yes, he's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he deserves to be, unlike a lot of other people, but he deserves to be in there. But 9 Inch Nails, absolutely love 9 Inch Nails from start to finish. But the song Closer, of course, has the video itself is wild. And I think Trent probably, gave the director some artistic freedom here, just kind of hoping the album and the videos would be perceived as controversial. So they basically re-edited the video because the record company wanted it to be played. But again, a very straightforward message in this song. There's nothing romantic about the song. It's just really about primal lust. All right, number 3, and speaking of weird stuff that happened over the years, and Freddie Mercury absolutely didn't like this, right? He was actually against this. And Freddie, of course, a hero of mine from early on. The very first album I bought my own money was Queen the Game. I was just a kid. Took my birthday money, didn't know anything about tax. I was so excited to have the money, and I get there and they wanted to charge me the tax, and I had to borrow $1 from my stepdad to pay for the album. But I took it home and I could listen to the magic of Freddie Mercury and Queen anytime I wanted to. I guarded that album with my life. And Queen, of course, in the MTV era, Queen was nearly over. It's true. But I Want to Break Free, and that's when they have Freddie and the guys kind of dress up in drag or whatever, and it was just too much for MTV. Now, if you've seen the movie Bohemian Rhapsody, you can see some of that. The video is available now, too. But Freddie felt like he was being exploited a little bit for his own sexuality, and he didn't like it. It's interesting. It's a very interesting dichotomy with Freddie, because he was such a, free spirit about stuff, but he did not like being packaged in that light musically. But it's a great track. Number 2, a song that was actually written by Lenny Kravitz and performed by Madonna. It was very popular in my clubbing days. And it's got this hypnotic bass line and drum line to it that really, really, really makes it stand out over anything else in the Madonna catalog. And it's Justify My Love. I know people tried to dance to this. It was just a little different. But it's got this very deep, driving bass groove in it, and it just kind of makes you want to move. It's not necessarily a dance club song, even though they played it in the clubs. But again, written by Lenny Kravitz, arguably the coolest person alive. Number 1, one of my favorite bands of all time. You guys know this. It's Soundgarden. You say, Steve, they had a video band. They did. for the Jesus Christ pose, which is one of my favorite songs. And before people get upset, basically it's about somebody themselves wanting to paint themselves to be a victim. That's what it's about. You stare at me with the Jesus Christ pose. What they're basically saying is like you're being victimized here. Like you're being crucified. Like you're making this about yourself. That's the point of the song. It's not in any way disrespectful to Jesus Christ at all. But the video was. And I'm really surprised that the video kind of had what it did. Some of the content on it was pretty crazy. But anyway, they went too far in the other direction, and MTV banned the video. And you can find it. It's available on YouTube. But I think if they had not inverted the crosses, things would have been okay. You know, that upside down cross thing is to this day still very offensive to people, which is one of the reasons people do it. It's for shock value. That's somewhere I think we could probably agree to draw the line, no matter what your feelings are. But anyway, it was pretty crazy. The video was nuts, and of course, it drew some notoriety. But I think Chris is vocal, and that's amazing. So there you go. That's my top 10 songs from videos that were banned from MTV. And of course, we could do a whole list of, Megadeth and Sepultura and Slayer and people like that. I mean, we could do a whole thing of just, thrash that got banned. But they wore that like a badge of honor. Yeah, so they could go and hit Prater Magazine and say, well, we cut this great video. However, it was banned from MTV. And then what would happen is then you'd have to go buy the VHS or the DVD to see the video in the comfort of your own home. And then, of course, you'd have people like, knocking on your door, because, we were so incredibly sensitive back in those days. Thanks, Bin Laden. But you understand my point. It was a lot different. I had a friend of mine, and he's still my friend. But I won't give you a name because I don't want him to get any grief. But listen, he was so into, he was one of these kinds of people, he was so competitive about like thrash music, right? He was like one of the first people in my town that listened to thrash. He's the one that got me to Metallica and Megadeth, Slayer, those bands, Anthrax. I was more of an Anthrax guy than he was, but we liked them all. But he was really a Metallica guy. And so when he began to read these interviews and these magazines and find out about these other bands like in San Francisco and the West Coast that were thrash bands that maybe were underground, bands like Hollow's Eve, he just got deeper and deeper and deeper into this thing. And it wasn't anything satanic. It wasn't anything that was so incredibly, rebellious. He just liked thrash music. But because of that, all of a sudden, he wore a Hallows Eve shirt, right? He had a signed letter from Stacey Anderson from Hallows Eve. It was just nuts, man. He would write these people and they'd write him back. It was crazy. He was just trying to get some merch or get some more information on the band and try to find out where to buy a record. And back in those days, we didn't have Amazon, so a lot of times, and bands didn't have websites, so you'd have to send them money in a self-addressed stamped envelope. And that's the bands that he loved. But all of a sudden, man, people began to kind of see him in a different light. It's well, why is he listening to this stuff? Why do you care, right? Why do you care? And it's so crazy when I think about that in hindsight because I was his friend. And I was never really worried about guilt by association because even back then I didn't care, right? I just didn't care. But he was my friend. And there were so many people that vilified him because of the music he listened to. And I'm not going to tell you what he does for a living now, but he's incredibly successful. And has written some books. And it's probably one of the most well-adjusted people that I know. It's true. Travels all over the country. And there were so many people in a little small town Mississippi who were like, hey, this kid's, this is back before school shootings, but I promise you, he would have been the guy that they would have called in and said, this guy's most likely to shoot up a school. And he just wasn't that kid at all. But there was just so much of that angst because of the fact we were different. We wanted to listen to what we liked, and we didn't want anybody to tell us otherwise. And even Brent Smith from Shinedown talks about when he had the Dr. Feelgood album and Appetite for Destruction, he had to hide them in his closet, because people are like, oh, you can't listen to this or you're going to hell. And I just don't believe it. I think what's in a person's heart is going to determine that. And there are a few more steps to that. I'm not going to get really religious here on YouTube, but I know what it takes, right? And so my point being is that my hope is when we talk about all these bias and prejudices in the world, that's one thing that we can get by. People should be able to listen to whatever they want to listen to. And if you don't want to listen to it, you don't have to. Now, listen, it kind of bothers me, to be honest with you, when, people pull up at a gas station or whatever and the music's blaring and it's something offensive or, whatever, and there are kids around. I don't say anything. I think about it, though. I do. I'm too old for fisticuffs in the Circle K parking lot. But you understand my point. Within reason. What you do with your time is your business, and what your money is your business. But I thought all this was really silly. I didn't think we'd get that deep into that. But there we are. All right, we got to hustle finish up here. The next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution. I love Campus Bookmart. You do too. And if you don't, it's because you don't know them. I love them. I do. They're like family to me. I encourage you to go by and buy your Mississippi State merchandise from a Starkville business. Campus Bookmart stands alone when it comes to selection of Mississippi State merchandise. If you can't make it to town, visit them on the World Wide Web at campusbookmart.net. And by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a phrase that pays. That is BSR. That stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. That gets you free shipping on all orders over $75. Any order less than $75, absolutely incomplete. That's campusbookmart.net. All right, let's talk a little about women's basketball. The women got off the schneid last night. Pretty happy about that, to say the least. I know you folks are as well. The losing streak really took some luster off the season, right? It did. We do close it out on Senior Day with a win over Missouri, 90-75. That takes the Bulldogs 21-10 overall and 8-8 in the Southeastern Conference. Missouri finishes up 11-18 and 2-14 in the league. This was quite a game for a while. Missouri came out again. First quarters, it's like people, I don't know what they're doing in their offensive sets, but we have struggled in first and fourth quarters tremendously. However, we battle back. It's a 1-point deficit at the break, and then in the third period, State pulls away. Jerkayla Jordan just kind of leading the way for us. 28-15 quarter, so State pushes it out to 13. A dozen points, 13-point advantage in the quarter, a dozen in the game. And then we win the fourth quarter by 3, 23-30. It's important for us to win that fourth quarter because that has been a recurring theme with this team as of late. 6,297 people came to see it. Look at the Bulldog numbers here. It's Jerkayla Jordan with 22 points. Darian Rogers matches her with 22 off the bench. Lauren Park-Lang with 18. So good guard play by the Bulldogs. Erin Barnum just 6. Jessica Carter just 5. And a lot of that, too, is just because of the fact they were denying the post. Just 6 shots from the field for Jessica. DeBrisha Poe starts 19 minutes of action. Her and Rogers kind of sharing some time there in the rotation. One big 3-point basket from Poe, who had 5 points on the night. So Bulldogs with 90. We shoot 55% in the game. That typically will get it done. Free throw shooting was okay, 13 of 19. But this is a game, the game was tied 8 times. The lead changed hands 8 times. And fortunately for Bulldogs, we never really looked back after that third quarter. It's a big game for Mississippi State. So again, Bulldogs now headed to Greensboro, South Carolina later this week. It all gets underway, the SEC Women's Basketball Tournament, on Wednesday. The first game, the 10 a.m. game, is going to be number 12 Kentucky versus number 13 Georgia. And then game number 2 is Florida and Missouri. 11-14 matchup between Florida and Mizzou. Mizzou, of course, 14. You get into Thursday, and that's the day the Bulldogs will play. We're going to have the 11 a.m. game against Texas A&M. Now, we will preview that game on Wednesday. But A&M is a team, again, kind of right there with us as a contemporary. The Bulldogs go down there and get a win against the Aggies in their home gymnasium. This will be on a neutral floor. You would think that would favor us, but we have not been playing basketball well as of late. But it is now a new season. I think we're in the tournament, but I think we need to win this game. I think most people would feel a whole lot better about State's postseason resume if we're able to win this ball game against A&M, because you know who lurks on Friday in the quarterfinals in that early game with South Carolina, who was an absolute machine. Now, looking back at the rest of Thursday's action, the number 5 Tennessee Volunteers will play the winner of the Kentucky-Georgia game. Number 10 seeded Arkansas will play Auburn. Number 6 Vanderbilt will play the winner of Game 2, Florida-Missouri. So we were hoping to avoid having to play on the first two days of the tournament, but turns out we didn't. And your top 4 seeds ended up being South Carolina 1, LSU 2, Ole Miss 3. That win that they had against us really kind of turned some things around for them. And then Alabama with 4. And again, it was there for the taking for us. It was. And we simply didn't get it done. And now here we are. Regular season's in the books. We got to figure some things out. But again, more in-depth coverage of the matchup for Thursday when we get into the Wednesday's show. I love the SEC tournament in every sport. I usually keep the TV on and watch every single game, at least passively. But we just need to find a way to beat A&M. And again, if we beat A&M, I think that really removes all doubt about Mississippi State. If you lose that game, you're really leaving it in the hands of the committee. There's no question about that. I don't think anybody sees it any other way. And you want to be playing your best basketball at the end of the year so you can look good to the committee if you're a bubble team. But we've played our way back onto the bubble. At this point, it does appear that we're on the right side of the bubble, but a win over A&M, I think, kind of clinches that for us. I think there's any question about it. But you're kind of looking back at the weekend. It was pretty nuts, really. One of those crazy things that, and it's such a disappointment, right? Because you spend so much time and emotional energy, kind of hoping for the best here, and things just didn't work out the way we had hoped. But, solid weekend for sure. I think everybody sees it that way. Solid weekend over the weekend for the Bulldogs. But it's just one of those things, you lose that ball game to Auburn. It's a game that means an awful lot to people around here. A lot of people still very, disappointed is the word we'd use. Because, Johnny Hayes didn't get hired here. But the way I see it is, I think Sam's a good coach for us. We just got to get some things worked out. There's no question about it. We got to get some things worked out. Everybody sees it the same way. But looking back at Sunday, Auburn beats Florida. Really big win for Auburn. They're 19-10 overall, 8-8 in the conference. 77-74 winners. South Carolina, in a barn burner of a game with Tennessee, wins 76-68. A lot of pride in that volunteer program. And they're still looking up at South Carolina. But they went to Colonial Life and played a really, really good game. The difference in the ball game is that first period. They get down by 6 and just never really could, to get any closer. Down 8 at the break, and then it's an exciting game down the stretch. But they just, Rakia Jackson did her best with 29 points. Vanderbilt beats Georgia 72-55. LSU beats Kentucky 77-56. 9 points in the first quarter for Kentucky on senior day down at the Maravich Assembly Center. And then Alabama, really good game against Texas A&M, 78-71. The Aggies 18-11 overall and 6-10 in the conference. A couple games behind us, but again, we're not playing up to our full potential. And then Ole Miss absolutely destroyed Arkansas, 87-43. So we're kind of limping into the tournament, but perhaps we can get some things figured out. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. I love Starkville. Many of you don't get the honor and privilege of living here. You visit here with great regularity. Starkville's a great place to hang out. So whether you're bringing a work group to town, perhaps bringing your family in for a ball game weekend, or maybe you just want to say, you know what, hey, let's go relive our college days and hang out in the Cotton District. I'm not, there's some places you can go and some you probably shouldn't. Maybe feel a little bit old going to those places. But nevertheless, maybe you want to do a staycation. Let's all go get a place and all of our college friends come together. Maybe we want to do a baby shower. Maybe we want to do a bachelor party weekend. I don't know what you want to do, but just 5 minutes away from the Mississippi State campus, kind of tucked away there, is the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Now, Google Stark Vegas Clubhouse, and that'll give you all the information you need. Their Facebook page will come up, and you can peruse through the pictures on there and kind of see the amenities that are available to you. That great back porch area, 5 bedrooms. It's a completely renovated clubhouse, plenty of room to spread out. Everybody can kind of have their own place to kind of recreate, but also to their own place to rest. That great fire pit area in the backyard. You got a couple neighbors out there, so we're not throwing a rave by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a great place to be near campus and be in town, but kind of tucked away where you have a bit of privacy. Now, you're going to have some options to book. You can book through Airbnb. You can book through VRBO. But if you book through the Evolve website, I can save you a little money. Use promo code BSR10, and that gets you 10% off your stay when you stay at Stark Vegas Clubhouse. No better place to stay with a large group, whether it be a work group, a recreational group, or a family group, than the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. All right, Mississippi State men, still got a week to play here. And as you guys are well aware, we lost at Auburn. And that's just kind of how it works. It wasn't a game that I was expecting to win. We did go over there and make it competitive. There were some times that we'd make a run that Auburn would answer, but in the first half, it was not a good game. We were down 17 points. We battled back there in the second half, but again, we had our moments. But Josh Hubbard, again, 23 points in the game, 6 of 11 from beyond the arc, 5 of 6 from the line. Tolu Smith, 14 points, 10 rebounds, a double-double effort for Tolu. Shaquille Moore, just 6 points, and only attempted 6 shots from the field. John Jones Jr. pitches in 4 for us. Cam Matthews, 29 minutes of action, only able to get 3 points. And that's, again, when we struggle to find a third scoring option, we typically lose. Free throws, still a little bit of an advantage for us, but 12 of 20 is probably a mark we ought to be certainly proud of, considering that some other games we haven't shot that well. But it didn't come down to free throw shooting by any stretch of the imagination. Auburn just has a little more talent. They're playing at home. And, of course, the revenge factor is always a part of that thing, too. State 7 of 20 from three-point line. 36 rebounds in the game, if I can get it out there. So we out-rebounded Auburn, but Auburn just shot the basketball at a much higher proficiency than we did. Auburn 50% in the game. We shot 39%. When there's 11-point differential in the shooting percentage, it usually spells a defeat for your team. But now 2 more games to go in the regular season, and we'll kind of figure some things out. Obviously, we're playing for seeding here. And State's going to need to answer. We need to make sure that we're not an NIT team. And listen, as great as things have gone, if we end up in the NIT instead of the tournament, I think a lot of our fans are going to view the season as a bit of a disappointment. Fair or unfair, I think a lot of people will feel that way. So we're going to head to A&M on Wednesday. And again, we'll preview that game on the Wednesday show. But that's a big game for us. And State has been better as of late on the road. I know we didn't get off to the great start at Auburn. We're going to have to do that at A&M. We're going to have to go out there and play like we did against LSU. And the thing about Jans is again, he's going to have the game plan. It's just going to be a matter of we can execute it athletically like we did against LSU. And again, I see A&M kind of in that same level. And then, of course, South Carolina comes in here. I'm not ready to concede either one of these games. I think State is capable of winning both of these games. And you start breaking it down, you start thinking, hey, you got some good RPI opportunities, and there's some things that help us in the net. I guess that's what we're calling it these days. We talked about getting to 20 wins. I feel pretty confident we'll do that. But, man, if we could get to 21, wouldn't that make you feel a whole lot better about things? And that's going into the SEC tournament. So that's an exciting aspect of things too. But I'm just eager to kind of see, what happens with this team. How will we respond? I didn't expect us to beat Kentucky. I didn't expect us to beat Auburn. And that's not an I told you so moment. I don't think in the end that hurts us that much. That's my point there. I don't think that puts us in a situation that we're just kind of out of the mix by any stretch of the imagination. It's one of those things that I begin to think about, what was a reasonable expectation for this team, right? Well, making the tournament, right? And I think that's where we stand right now. That is still very much attainable. I think Chris Jan's done some amazing things this year. I think this year has been a better year than last year, largely because of the fact that we got some marquee wins that we can claim. I think everybody sees it that way. But we got to finish. We certainly can't go into this thing on a losing streak. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We got to figure that out. We got to make some things happen. And when I think about this team, it's like when I get excited, not just when Josh Hubbard is scoring, but when you look up and all of a sudden Cam Matthews has 10, 12 points. That's big. That's big. All right, looking at the at the conference standings, Tennessee now 13-3, a game ahead of South Carolina. So again, South Carolina will come here probably with a chance to claim a share of the SEC championship. They're currently tied with Alabama at second. Auburn and Kentucky there at 11-5. And then there's Florida 10-6, and then Mississippi State and LSU right there together. Now, State is 32 in the net, so you feel really good about that aspect of it. And, of course, the better Tennessee and Auburn do, the better our net will do as well. You need teams around you to win. But when you get a little bit deeper into this thing, you get beyond Mississippi State, there's some teams that are probably going to have to make a run to make the tournament. LSU is one of them with a net of 88. They may need to get to the championship game. Who knows? They win these 2 games this week and win 2 games in a tournament. Maybe that puts them in a position to get an at-large bid. Ole Miss, 78 in the net, 7-9 overall in the conference. A&M actually has won less games than Ole Miss. They're tied in the SEC standings. When you look at the net, they're 24 points better than Ole Miss. A&M's 54, Ole Miss is 78. And again, that goes back to non-conference scheduling. And again, Ole Miss doesn't have a signature win this year. They don't have somebody that kind of brings them along with them like we do with Tennessee and Auburn. Georgia's 5-11 with a net of 104. Arkansas 5-11 in the league, 14-15 overall, and 121 in the net. Vanderbilt's 3-13, 8 of 21 overall. 221 in the net. And in Missouri, of course, 0-16 in the conference, but 8-21, but then 60 points ahead of Vanderbilt in the net, which says a lot about Vanderbilt's non-conference scheduling. So it's going to be, a fight to the finish. No doubt about it. I think we're capable of getting it done. Maybe that's just me. I think that we'll get at least 1 this week, and possibly 2. I think Humphrey Coliseum on Saturday is going to be an absolute madhouse because we're playing for something big. I think everybody sees it. We all know what's at stake. And I don't know what's happening with the SEC website. But looking at Tuesday's games, that's tomorrow night, Alabama is at Florida, Ole Miss is at Georgia, Auburn is at Missouri. And so you feel like the chalk will likely hold there. Ole Miss has not been a great road team. So it'll be interesting to see if they can handle Georgia. You'd like to think Ole Miss could win that game, but again, you flash the numbers there, you kind of see it for what it is. Alabama's at Florida. You'd like Alabama to win there. So Alabama and Auburn both win. They'll probably keep pace. And then we'll talk more in depth about those games on Tuesday. And, of course, Wednesday's schedule, Tennessee at South Carolina. That's a big one right there. That's a big one. LSU's at Arkansas, Vanderbilt's at Kentucky, and Mississippi State's at A&M. So very, very important week of basketball. And that's the thing we always talk about. We want to be playing meaningful basketball late in the year. We want to be in contention for something, and we are. I'm very proud of this program, proud of these coaches, proud of these players. But we've got to find a way to get in the tournament. And then you see what the matchups are, right? Then you just kind of see how it plays out. But, we want to be in the tournament. We don't want to be in the play-in game or whatever. I know that was fun last year because we were kind of ahead of schedule, but it was all kind of building towards this year, and we thought we would be in by now. We didn't think there'd be any question. And some people would argue, hey, with our net, we're in. You lose these last 2, you're not in. We got to find a way to at least get a split. I think everybody will agree with that. You'd feel a whole lot better about our standing if we could make that happen. You win 1 or 2 of this week, I think no matter what happens in the SEC tournament, you're okay. Just my take on it. Maybe you see it differently, and that's okay too. I just want Mississippi State to win, certainly. Real quickly before we get out of here, I'm still working hard on the on the dude, the biography of Dudy Noble. I continue to uncover some great stuff, and it always makes me think, what else am I missing? I think we've got a pretty good story, and we're really kind of honoring his memory and his legacy at Mississippi State. And still working through some limited edition stuff. Talked with my agent yesterday, kind of get some price points back. We're trying to decide, is that worth it? Would people buy this? The limited edition, and we think they will, but it will be a very limited edition. I think it's important for us to for a book of this importance, we need to do something a little bit special. And so I'll keep you guys updated. I got one more year left of his playing career. And Chapter 5, I think in many respects, will be a chapter of great interest to everybody involved in the State-Ole Miss rivalry. Because of the fact that, and this is before he coaches at Ole Miss, this is his senior year of athletics at Mississippi State. And it took Dudy a little while to graduate. And a lot of it, he had to figure out what he wanted to do with life. But Chapter 5, you probably have always wondered, why didn't we play Ole Miss in 1912, 13, or 14? Maybe you sit around the house and wonder, what was that about? Well, I've heard some theories over the years, but now I have the reality of it, and I've got the evidence to prove it. And so Chapter 5 is going to be about that 1915 year. I may just do a whole chapter just on the Egg Bowl and what led to that game. And you may recall that's the 65-0 game. Dudy Noble was our quarterback. It's the largest margin of victory in the history of State and Ole Miss football for either team. But you probably don't know why State run the score up. And you probably don't understand why State didn't play Ole Miss the 3 years previously. And you probably don't know why there was a lot of acrimony between the two schools because of some things that were said in the media regarding the fact that State didn't play Ole Miss for 3 years. And it wasn't just us. And so that's going to be Chapter 5. I'm looking forward to writing that. We'll rough that out on Thursday. And, we'll see what the weekend brings. But, kind of starting to find the groove a little bit. And, a lot of it, too, is I've been so reliant on other people to get some information that I didn't have access to. And so now I have access to that. So the writing process is really kind of picking up here. If you want to get some of the earlier books, I hope you will. Go to whenthebottomfalls.com, and you can get When the Bottom Falls, which is my newest book, book number 6. It's a memoir about my life and my pathway to recovery. And, of course, all my sports titles are available there, too. That's Flim Flam, Stark Villains, Alpha Dogs, and Dogpile. And every Bulldog needs a copy of Dogpile. And if you're looking for Stark Villains gear, and you certainly should be, you can get T-shirts and hoodies at starkvillains.com. And certainly come join us over at genespage.com. You can get 30% off the annual subscription rate right now. That's going to do it for today. But until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.